The woman stood at the edge of his porch like she'd been carved from the twilight itself, dusty, worn thin, holding the reins of a mule that looked ready to fold into the earth. Behind her, 3 children pressed together in the wagon bed, silent as stones. The smallest one, a girl no older than 5, clutched a bundle of rags to her chest and watched him with eyes too old for her face. Cole Brennan had been pouring coffee when he heard the wheels creak to a stop. He set the pot down slow, wiped his hands on his trousers, and stepped out onto the planks. The evening air smelled of sage and coming rain. The woman didn't move closer. She just stood there, hat brim low, waiting for him to speak first or send her off. "Help you?" Cole asked, keeping his voice level. She swallowed. Her lips were cracked, her dress patched in 3 places he could see. "We're passing through," she said. Her voice had gravel in it, like she'd been talking to the wind for days. "Wondered if we might sleep in your barn tonight. Just one night. We'll be gone by sunup." Cole looked past her to the children. 2 boys, maybe 8 and 10, flanked the little girl. None of them made a sound. Their faces were streaked with dust. Their clothes hung loose. The older boy had his hand on the girl's shoulder, protective, like he'd been holding her together for miles. "Where you headed?" Cole asked. "North," the woman said. "Fort Collins, my brother's there." Cole nodded slowly. He'd heard that line before. North, west, somewhere else. People came through his land every few weeks now, trailing hope and desperation in equal measure. Most he let water their horses and move on. Some he gave food. A few he turned away when his gut told him to. This woman, though she wasn't lying. He could see it in the way she held herself, not begging, not demanding, just asking, like she'd learned long ago that the world didn't owe her anything. "Barn's fine," Cole said, "but you'll come inside. There's stew left and the kids look hungry." The woman blinked. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She glanced back at the children, and something passed between them, relief, maybe, or disbelief. The older boy's shoulders dropped half an inch. "We don't need charity," she said quietly. "Didn't offer charity," Cole replied. "Offered stew. You can take it or leave it, but those kids need more than hay and a roof." She studied him for a long moment, weighing him the way people weighed strangers in a land that didn't forgive mistakes. Then she nodded once, sharp and small. "We are grateful," she said. Cole stepped aside and gestured toward the door. The woman climbed down from the wagon, moving stiff like her bones ached. The children followed, silent and watchful, their feet barely making sound on the dirt. The little girl still held that bundle of rags, clutched tight against her ribs. Inside, the house smelled of wood smoke and coffee. Cole ladled stew into bowls and set them on the table without ceremony. The children sat where the woman pointed, hands folded in their laps, waiting. She nodded, and they ate, slow at first, then faster, like their bodies remembered hunger before their minds caught up. Cole poured water into tin cups and watched from the corner. The woman ate last, and only after the children had finished. She didn't look at him while she ate, just kept her eyes down, chewing slow and deliberate. "What's your name?" Cole asked after a while. She set her spoon down. "Clara Whitfield." "These your children?" "Yes. Their father." Clara's jaw tightened. She met his eyes then, steady and unflinching. "Dead 2 months now." Cole nodded. He didn't ask how, it didn't matter. Dead was dead, and the West had 1,000 ways to make it happen. "I'm Cole," he said. "Cole Brennan. You're welcome to stay the night. Barn or house, your choice." Clara glanced at the children again. The little girl had fallen asleep in her chair, head tipped against the older boy's shoulder. The bundle of rags had slipped from her hands onto the table. It wasn't rags, Cole realized. It was a doll, stitched from flour sacks, with button eyes and yarn hair. "House is warmer," Clara said quietly, "if you don't mind." "I don't." He led them to the back room, where a bed sat against the wall and a quilt hung over a chair. It wasn't much, but it was more than a barn floor. Clara helped the children settle, pulling off their boots, tucking the quilt around them. The little girl murmured something in her sleep, and Clara smoothed her hair back, whispering something too low for Cole to hear. When she came back out, Cole was sitting by the stove, rolling a cigarette. Clara stood near the door, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. "Thank you," she finally said, "for this. Don't mention it. Most men wouldn't." Cole struck a match, lit the cigarette, and shook the flame out. Most men aren't sitting alone in a house too big for one person. Clara ummed. Ost smiled, almost. Then she looked down at her hands, calloused and raw. "We'll be gone in the morning." Cole didn't answer right away. He just smoked and listened to the wind press against the windows. Outside, the sky had gone dark, and the first drops of rain tapped against the roof like fingers. "Storm's coming," he said. "Might want to wait it out." Clara looked toward the window. Lightning flickered in the distance, silent and pale. She nodded slowly. "Maybe," she said. But neither of them believed it would just be one night. The storm lasted 3 days. Rain hammered the roof in sheets, turning the road into a river of mud and the fields into shallow lakes. Clara didn't mention leaving again, and Cole didn't bring it up. The children stayed quiet, helping where they could. The older boy, Thomas, fed the chickens. The middle one, Samuel, carried firewood, and the little girl, Ruthie, sat by the stove and hummed to her doll. Clara cooked. She didn't ask, just started doing it the second morning. Biscuits and gravy, beans and cornbread, coffee that didn't taste like boiled dirt. Cole came in from checking the barn and found her at the stove, sleeves rolled up, flour dusting her forearms. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I know," Clara replied, not looking up, "but we're eating your food. Least I can do is make it edible." Cole hung his hat on the peg and sat down. The house felt different with people in it, fuller, louder. The boys whispered to each other by the window, watching the rain. Ruthie hummed her wandering tune. Clara moved through the kitchen like she'd always been there, and for a moment, Cole forgot what it felt like to eat alone. On the fourth morning, the rain stopped. The sun came out pale and cautious, and the air smelled of wet earth and new grass. Cole walked the fence line, checking for damage, and when he came back, Clara was standing on the porch with her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the road. "It's clear now," she said. "It is." She didn't move, neither did he. "We should go," Clara said quietly. "We've imposed long enough." Cole leaned against the porch rail, studying her profile. She looked tired, bone-tired, the kind that sleep didn't fix. "You got money for the road?" Clara's jaw worked, some. "Enough." She didn't answer. "Your brother in Fort Collins," Cole said. "He expecting you." Clara's shoulders stiffened. "I wrote him months ago." "He write back." Silence. Cole nodded slowly. He'd thought as much. "Stay," he said. Clara turned to look at him, eyes sharp and wary. "What?" "Stay, help around here. I'll pay you room, board, and wages. Winter's coming, and I can't manage the ranch and the house alone. You stay through spring, save your money, then head north if you still want to." Clara stared at him like he'd spoken a language she didn't understand. "You don't even know us." "I know you're a hard worker. I know those kids are good. That's enough." "People will talk. Let them. They'll say." "I don't care what they say," Cole said, his voice firm but not harsh. "You need help, I need help. Rest is just noise." Clara looked away, blinking hard. Her hands trembled slightly before she clenched them into fists. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because nobody did it for me when I needed it." Clara's breath hitched. She pressed her lips together, fighting something back, tears, maybe, or words that had been locked up too long. Finally, she nodded. "All right," she said, "through spring." "Through spring," Cole agreed. That afternoon, he helped them move their few belongings from the wagon into the house. Thomas and Samuel carried blankets and a trunk. Ruthie held her doll and watched everything with those two old eyes. Clara unpacked slowly, carefully, like she was afraid to believe it was real. By evening, the house had shifted again. Clothes hung on pegs. Ruthie's doll sat on the windowsill. The boys' boots lined up by the door. Clara made supper, and they ate together at the table, passing bread and butter, talking in low, easy voices. Cole leaned back in his chair afterward, watching the children clean the dishes while Clara wiped down the table. It felt strange, good strange, but strange, like something he'd forgotten how to want. Later, when the children were asleep and the house had gone quiet, Clara sat across from him by the stove, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. "You're a good man, Cole Brennan," she said softly. Cole shook his head. "Just a man." "No," Clara said, "not just." She looked at him then, really looked, and something passed between them, understanding, maybe, or the beginning of trust. Cole didn't say anything. He just nodded once, and Clara nodded back. Outside, the wind stirred through the grass, carrying the smell of rain and distance. But inside, the house was warm. And for the first time in years, Cole didn't feel alone. The trouble came on a Tuesday, 6 weeks after Clara and the children had stayed. Cole was mending fence posts near the south pasture when he saw the dust rising on the road, 3 riders, moving slow and deliberate. He straightened, wiping sweat from his brow, and watched them approach. They didn't wave, didn't call out, just rode straight toward the house. Cole's gut tightened. He walked back quickly, keeping his pace measured but purposeful. By the time he reached the yard, the riders had stopped near the porch. Clara stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, her face pale. Thomas and Samuel were behind her, wide-eyed and silent. Ruthie peeked around Clara's skirt. The lead rider was a tall man with a thick beard and a badge pinned to his vest, sheriff's deputy by the look of it. The other 2 were harder men, ranch hands or hired guns. Cole couldn't tell which. They sat their horses like they owned the ground beneath them. "Afternoon," the deputy said, tipping his hat toward Clara. His eyes lingered on her a moment too long. "Name's Harlan, deputy out of Red Bluff." "Help you?" Cole asked, stepping between the riders and the porch. Harlan's gaze shifted to him, cool and appraising. "Looking for a woman, Clara Whitfield. Got word she might have come through here." Cole's pulse kicked up, but he kept his face blank. "Who's asking?" "Her husband's brother," Harlan said. "Man named Vincent Whitfield. Says she took off with his brother's children. Says they belong with family." Clara's breath caught audibly. Cole didn't turn around. "Her husband's dead," Cole said evenly. "That's right," Harlan replied, "which makes Vincent the legal guardian. Children belong to him now." "Like hell they do," Clara said, her voice sharp and shaking. She stepped onto the porch, chin lifted. "Vincent never cared about these children, never came around when James was alive. He wants them because James left the land deed in my name, and he thinks he can take it if he takes them." Harlan shrugged. "That's a matter for the courts, ma'am. Right now, I got a writ here says those children come with me." "No," Clara said flatly. One of the other riders shifted in his saddle, hand drifting toward his belt. Cole noticed. He took a half step forward, positioning himself square in front of Harlan's horse. "She said no," Cole said quietly. Harlan's eyes narrowed. "This your land, friend?" "It is." "Then you're harboring a fugitive and stolen property." "Those children aren't property. Law says different." Cole's jaw tightened. "Law says a lot of things, doesn't make them right." Harlan leaned forward in his saddle, voice dropping low and cold. "You really want to make this a problem, Brennan? I know who you are. I know you keep to yourself. Don't cause trouble. Don't throw that away for a woman and 3 kids that ain't yours." Cole held his gaze, steady and unyielding. "They're under my roof. That makes them mine." For a long moment, nobody moved. The wind stirred dust across the yard. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried. The tension pulled taut, wire-thin and ready to snap. Finally, Harlan sat back. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "All right, we'll do this the proper way. I'll be back with the judge's order. You got 3 days to hand them over, or I come back with a posse and take them by force. Your choice." He wheeled his horse around, and the other 2 followed. They rode off slow, deliberate, leaving a trail of dust hanging in the air like a threat. Cole watched until they disappeared over the ridge. Then he turned. Clara stood frozen on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, eyes glassy with fear. The children clung to her, silent and pale. Thomas looked at Cole with something like desperation. "He'll take them," Clara whispered. "Vincent will take them, and I'll never see them again." Cole climbed the steps and stood beside her. "No," he said, "he won't. You can't stop him, he has the law. Law's not the only thing that matters out here." Clara looked at him, searching his face. "What are you going to do?" Cole didn't answer right away. He looked out at the horizon, at the land he'd worked and bled for, the home he'd built from nothing. Then he looked at Clara, at the children pressed against her, and he made his choice. "Whatever it takes," he said. That night, after the children had finally fallen asleep, Clara sat at the kitchen table with her head in her hands. Cole poured 2 cups of whiskey and set one in front of her. She didn't touch it at first, just stared at the amber liquid like it held answers. "I should leave," she said quietly. "Take them and go, tonight." "And go where?" Cole asked, sitting across from her. "Harlan will have men watching the roads. You won't make it 10 miles. "Then what do I do?" Her voice cracked. "Vincent will take them. He'll sell the land and the children will end up." She stopped, shaking her head. "I can't let that happen." Cole leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Tell me about Vincent." Clara finally picked. Ate up the whiskey and took a small sip. She winced, then set it down. James's older brother always resented that their father left the ranch to James instead of him. When James died, Vincent showed up the next day with a deed lawyer, said the children needed a proper home, said I couldn't manage the land alone. She laughed bitterly. He didn't care about the children. He cared about the 300 acres. "You left." "I packed what we could carry and left in the middle of the night. I knew he'd come after us, but I thought—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "I thought I could get far enough away that it wouldn't matter." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You did right." Clara looked at him, eyes red-rimmed. "Did I? Look where we are. You're risking everything for people you barely know." "I know enough," Cole said simply. "Why?" Clara asked, her voice breaking. "Why do you care?" Cole stared into his cup. He'd asked himself the same question 100 times over the past weeks. Why take them in? Why fight for them? The easy answer was that it was the right thing to do, but the truth, the real truth, was harder. "I had a family once," he said quietly. "Wife, daughter, fever took them both in the same week 7 years back. After that I just kept working, kept moving, easier than feeling it." He paused. "Then you showed up and the house didn't feel so empty anymore. The kids laugh, you hum when you cook. It's been a long time since this place felt like a home." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Cole, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I'm just saying you gave me something I didn't know I needed. So if Vincent wants to take that away, he's gonna have to go through me first." Clara reached across the table and took his hand. Her grip was firm, warm, grounding. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole squeezed back. "We'll figure it out." They sat like that for a while, hands clasped, the silence comfortable and steady. Outside, the night was cool and clear, stars scattered across the sky like salt. Inside, the stove crackled softly, and somewhere in the back room, Ruthie murmured in her sleep. Eventually, Clara pulled her hand back and wiped her eyes. "What's the plan?" Cole leaned back in his chair. "Tomorrow, I ride into town, talk to Judge Calloway. He's a fair man, knew my father. Maybe he can delay the writ, buy us time. And if he can't, then we make sure Vincent doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. You said the deed's in your name." Clara nodded. "James made sure of it before he died, said he didn't trust Vincent. Then we get that deed filed properly, recorded at the county office. Once it's official, Vincent can't claim the land, and if he can't claim the land, he's got no reason to take the kids." Hope flickered in Clara's eyes. "You think that'll work?" "It's a start." She nodded slowly, then stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the dark fields, arms wrapped around herself. "I never wanted this life," she said softly. "I wanted something quiet, safe, a place where the children could grow up without fear." "Maybe you'll still get that," Cole said. Clara turned to look at him. "Maybe," she said, but her voice carried more belief than it had before. Later, after Clara had gone to bed, Cole sat alone by the stove, thinking. Tomorrow would bring trouble, he knew that much. But tonight, the house was warm and the people in it were safe. And that, for now, was enough. Cole rode into Red Bluff at dawn, the sky still bruised with purple and gold. The town was waking slowly, shopkeepers sweeping porches, a blacksmith firing his forge, the smell of fresh bread drifting from the bakery. Cole tied his horse outside the courthouse and climbed the steps 2 at a time. Judge Calloway was in his office, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, reading a newspaper with a cup of coffee steaming beside him. He looked up when Cole knocked. "Cole Brennan," the judge said, surprised. "Haven't seen you in town for months. What brings you here?" "Need your help, Judge." Calloway gestured to a chair. Cole sat and laid out the situation: Clara, the children, Vincent, the writ. The judge listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When Cole finished, Calloway leaned back and steepled his fingers. "Vincent Whitfield," he said slowly. "I know the man. Greedy son of a bitch, pardon my language, tried to contest his brother's will last year, got thrown out of court. Can you stop the writ?" Calloway frowned. "Holland's writ is valid, technically, but it's based on Vincent's claim as guardian. If that claim is contested properly, the writ becomes void." He tapped his desk thoughtfully. "You said the land deed is in Clara's name." "It is." "Then she's got legal standing. File a counterclaim, and I'll hold a hearing. If she can prove Vincent has no legitimate guardianship right, I'll dismiss his petition." "How long?" 2 days, maybe 3. Cole nodded. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. "NG, thank you, Judge." "Don't thank me yet," Calloway said. "Vincent's got friends. This won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing is." Cole left the courthouse and rode to the county clerk's office, where he filed Clara's deed officially and paid for a certified copy. By the time he rode back to the ranch, the sun was high and hot, and sweat soaked his shirt. Clara met him at the door, eyes anxious. "Well, we've got a hearing in 3 days," Cole said. "Judge is willing to listen, but we need to prove Vincent has no claim." Clara's face hardened with determination. "I've got letters from James. He wrote about Vincent, about how he didn't want him near the children. I kept them all." "That'll help. Get them ready." The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Clara gathered every document, every letter, every scrap of proof she had. Thomas and Samuel helped around the ranch, quiet but determined. Ruthie stayed close to Clara, clutching her doll, sensing the weight of what was coming. On the morning of the hearing, they rode into town together, Cole, Clara, and the children. The courthouse was packed. Vincent Whitfield sat at the front, a hard-faced man with cold eyes and a sneer that made Cole's fists clench. Harlan stood beside him, arms crossed. Judge Calloway banged his gavel. "This is a hearing to determine legal guardianship of Thomas, Samuel, and Ruth Whitfield. Mr. Whitfield, state your case." Vincent stood, smooth and confident. "Your Honor, my brother James left these children in the care of a woman who abandoned their home and fled with them across state lines. I am their blood kin, and I have the means to provide for them properly." "Mrs. Whitfield," Calloway said, turning to Clara, "your response." Clara stood, hands trembling but voice steady. "James left the children to me because he trusted me. He didn't trust Vincent, and I have his words to prove it." She handed the letters to the judge. Calloway read them slowly, his expression darkening. Then he looked at Vincent. "These letters indicate your brother explicitly did not want you involved in his children's lives. He accuses you of manipulation and greed. What do you say to that?" Vincent's sneer faltered. "James was sick. He didn't know what he was writing." "He knew," Clara said firmly. "He knew exactly who you were." Calloway set the letters down. "I've seen enough. Vincent Whitfield, your claim is denied. Clara Whitfield retains full custody of the children, and the land deed remains in her name. This court is adjourned." The gavel came down like thunder. Vincent shot to his feet, face purple with rage. "This isn't over." "Yes," Calloway said coldly, "it is." Holland put a hand on Vincent's shoulder, pulling him back. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Clara collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Thomas and Samuel wrapped their arms around her. Ruthie climbed into her lap, and Clara held her tight, shaking with relief. Cole stood to the side, watching, feeling something loosen in his chest, something that had been tight for 7 long years. Outside, the sun was bright and warm. Clara stood with the children, looking out at the street, and Cole came to stand beside her. "It's over," she said quietly. "It is," Cole agreed. She looked up at him, eyes still wet but smiling. "What now?" Cole thought about the house, about the empty rooms that didn't feel empty anymore. He thought about the way Clara hummed in the kitchen, the way the children's laughter filled the yard. He thought about what home really meant. "Now," he said, "we go home." Clara smiled, a real smile, full and unguarded. "Yeah," she said, "let's go home." Years later, when the children had grown and the ranch had prospered, people in Red Bluff would still tell the story of Cole Brennan and the family he never let leave. They'd talk about the woman who asked to sleep in his barn and the man who opened his home and his heart. And on quiet evenings, when the wind stirred through the grass and the sky burned gold, Cole would sit on the porch with Clara beside him, watching the sun set over the land they'd built together. "Thank you," Clara would say sometimes, for no reason at all. And Cole would just take her hand and say, "Thank me for what? You're the ones who saved me." The wind would carry their laughter across the fields, and the house, once lonely, once silent, would stand warm and full, a home in every sense of the word.